Hi everyone and welcome to my talk about the impact attack. Before we start, let me introduce myself. I'm David Ruprecht, PhD student at the wonderful Ruhr University Bochum, and my aim is to secure mobile networks by finding flaws and fixing them. Before we start with the talk, let me motivate this topic. And I know everyone knows LTE is everywhere, so we use it to stream music, even some series, and buy things on Amazon. But also our first responders use it in case of emergencies. And there's a third use case, the industrial use case, where IoT devices or factories are connected via LTE to control units. This and the fact that LTE is the foundation for our future 5G networks makes it important to look into the security measures of 5G. So I will introduce you to the impact attack. Impact stands for impersonation attacks in 4G networks, and when we talk about impersonation, we need a common definition of impersonation. By impersonation, I mean that an attacker is able to act as you towards the network. He can send arbitrary IP messages or packets towards the network and even to the internet with your identity. For the aim of this talk is to understand the impact attack, the attack vectors that are exploited, and what implications of these attacks exist. Before we get there, we need to pass the basic agenda. First of all, I would like to introduce you to some LTE background information. Then I would like to show you the alter attack. The alter attack uses the same attack vector as the impact attack, but is more easy to understand than the impact attack. Third, we will look into the impact attack. We will there understand what attack vectors are used and how the attack works. We will further discuss the implications of these attacks and in particular see if 5G is secure against these attacks. So we will start with the LTE background information. So as always, we have a small LTE network architecture. So we got the phone on the left side. This phone is connected towards the closest base station. And this phone is connected towards the closest base station, also called eNode B. And the eNode B, or the LTE network itself, has many entities. They are not important for us today. Important is that the IP network provided towards the phone is separated via firewall from the rest of the internet. Firewall or NAT. So any incoming IP connection cannot pass through the phone. So when we talk about LTE or 4G security, we definitely need to talk about the security aims. The first and very important security aim is mutual authentication. Mutual authentication ensures that you are talking to the correct provider and the provider knows that you are the correct person. As some of you might know, 2G does not provide any network authentication, and this is why still so many 2G attacks are possible and or IMSI catcher attacks. The second important security aim is traffic confidentiality. Traffic confidentiality ensures that a passive attacker is not able to eavesdrop your phone calls, but also even your internet connection. Here I'm not talking about HTTPS or TLS, I'm talking about the radio connection between your phone and the base station. The third most unique security aim for mobile networks is identity and location confidentiality. An attacker should not be able to know who you are just being close to you. And also the attacker should not know where you are when he only knows your phone number. So today we are going to break the mutual authentication aim on the user data. Because impersonation contradicts mutual authentication. So how are the security aims basically fulfilled? Therefore, LTE has some security features. And the main part of the security features are based on a shared secret in your SIM card and in the provider's home network in a secure location. Based on this secret key, at the beginning of each connection, handshake with or mutual authentication is established based on an authentication and key agreement protocol. This key agreement protocol is secure with mathematics proofs. And this AKA also derives some keys which are used for secure the further connection for your internet traffic and even some control traffic. Today we are going to look into the security measures which are taken during the connection and how they are protected. Before we do this, we need to distinguish between two kinds of traffics. First of all, we have LTE-specific control traffic. This control traffic is generated when you, for example, hand over from one cell to another cell. This control traffic is encrypted with a stream cipher and integrity protected. Further, we have user plane traffic. This user plane traffic is generated by your app or your web browser when you visit a website. It's only IP traffic, and this IP traffic is encrypted using a stream cipher. However, this is not integrity protected like the control plane. As I said earlier, we use a stream cipher to encrypt packets. And so how does a stream cipher work? So we have a plaintext which is only 4-bit long, and these 4 bits are XORed with a keystream. For example, A is in counter mode. This XOR results in a ciphertext. This ciphertext is then sent over the air towards the base station. The decryption is quite similar to the encryption, so the base station receives the ciphertext, XORs the keystream generated with the same input parameters for AES and counter mode, and this will result in the plaintext. So we are already done with the LTE background information. Let's start with the alter attack. The aim of the alter attack is to steal credentials. For example, when you visit a website, you get redirected towards a malicious web page where a login prompt is shown, and you enter your credentials, and the attacker is able to gain the information of this login. You are not exactly connected to the real network, you are connected to something which we will call LTE relay or man-in-the-middle attacker. So what kind of attack vector does the attacker exploit? The attacker exploits the missing integrity protection of the user plane data, which I have shown you in the background. So missing integrity protection in the combination with the stream cipher leads to malleable encryption. And malleable encryption is always a bad thing. Just assume we have an active man-in-the-middle attacker in the position between the phone and the base station. This man-in-the-middle attacker can actively change the ciphertext by flipping the 3rd bit in this example. The base station has no means and no measures to detect such bit flips, XORs the same keystream as generated before, which result that the same bit flip is contained in the plaintext. The question is, can this be done deterministically? Yes, it can be done, under the assumption the attacker knows the plaintext. So in this way, the attacker can calculate a mask by XORing the wanted plaintext, here on the right side, with a known plaintext, and the mask can be applied to each packet where the plaintext is known to change it to the wanted plaintext. The question is now, where do we get the plaintext, in particular in the context of LTE? So the answer to this question is quite simple. We will use the DNS server, which is set by default during the first attach. So each provider has a set on default DNS servers, which are known to us or the attacker. And we use this IP address to perform a redirection attack. Further, it's important to note that DNS packets are particular or good identifiable based on the length of the packet. So they are good distinguishable between normal TCP traffic and DNS requests. Knowing the default DNS, we got the known plain text, and we can basically redirect any DNS request towards the malicious DNS server. So the aim of the Alter attack now is to redirect an outgoing DNS request with an active attacker, which is in the man-in-the-middle position between your phone and the network, and to redirect this DNS request towards the malicious DNS server. So the phone will connect to our man-in-the-middle relay because this attack is quite similar to IMSI catcher attack. So the relay sends out the identifiers of the network. Then the network, the commercial network, and the phone will perform the AKA. This will happen, and the relay will relay all those messages without any modification. In this way, the phone thinks he is connected to the correct network, and the network thinks he is connected to the right customer. The relay further forwards all messages until a DNS request is received by the relay. When he received the DNS request, he will detect it based on the shorter length and will XOR the mask he has calculated. And this mask can be easily applied due to the missing integrity protection. He basically sets the destination IP towards a malicious DNS server and forwards it to the network. The network has no means to detect the manipulation, decrypts the packet, and routes it towards the internet, and basically is received by the malicious DNS server. The malicious DNS server receives the DNS request, responds with a spoofed DNS response, and sends it back to the network. Everything is encrypted via the network for the over-air transmission and forwarded to the relay on the radio layer, and the UE receives the packet on the radio layer with a spoofed response. It then uses the spoofed response for the outgoing HTTP request. So all the subsequent HTTP connection is directed towards a malicious HTTP server. So we need something in the man-in-the-middle position between your phone and the commercial network, right? And on the left side, we already know that IMSI catcher or fake base station attacks exist. So towards the phone, the relay must act as eNote B, as commercial eNote B by sending out the identifiers, and acts as normal eNote B. However, the relay also requires to act as UE towards the commercial eNote B. So on the radio layer, it looks like it's a real UE connecting. In between, everything is forwarded. All layer 2 frames are forwarded in both directions, and only DNS requests are altered. So we built this relay based on the open source software stack called SAS LTE, and I will now show you my setup. So SAS LTE requires you to send out messages using software-defined radios. We got here one software-defined radio by Atos that costs about $1,000, and this simulates the UE towards a commercial network. We got a second software-defined radio here, connected via cable towards a shielding box. And within the shielding box, we got the antennas here. And they open up the cell which our commercial phone, here Nexus 5, connects to. The commercial phone contains a commercial SIM card without any modification, except everything is controlled via ADB and USB cable. We close the shielding box to not interfere with the commercial network, so that the providers can use their spectrum. And so this was the setup, and I will now show you the demo video of the Ultra attack. So we see the LTE relay here, the DNS server here, and the HTTP server here. We have the victim's phone here. We initialize the relay. We start both software-defined radios. And we are going to disable the airplane mode. And at this point, the AKA is performed, all control traffic is relayed, and the phone thinks it is connected to the real commercial network. The victim might enter a web page or website like hotmail.com, and here we already got the redirection. So the relay detects the DNS request based on the links, XORs the mask, and the IP packet gets redirected or routed to the malicious DNS server, seen here. And the phone sends now the HTTP request towards the malicious HTTP server, and the HTTP server delivers a fake website where the user might enter the credentials. And here you can see that the user entered the credentials and everything is locked by the attacker, and he can obtain the credentials. So you now have seen that the Ultra attack can be performed in a commercial network for stealing credentials or redirecting people or victims to a malicious site. And the question is, can it be worse? And yes, it can be worse with impact. So we will proceed now with the impact attack. As I said, impact stands for impersonation in 4G networks. The question is, or there are two variants of the impact attack. First of all, we have the uplink variant. In the uplink variant, the user or the victim, the attacker impersonates a victim towards a network on the user plane. So this is a limitation. We only focus on the user plane, user IP traffic. For example, the attacker is capable or able to access a website with the identity or IP address of the victim. There's a downlink variant of this attack, and the downlink variant enables an attacker to impersonate a network towards the user on the user plane. Thereby, he can circumvent the provider's firewall, directly accessing the phone via network connection. Both attacks break the aim of mutual authentication on the user plane in both directions, because the provider does not receive messages from the wrong identity, but assumes the identity of another, and also the victim or the phone receives messages it should not receive. What do we exploit for impact? We exploit again the effect of missing integrity protection, and we combine this attack vector now with something we call reflection. So I think all of you know the ICMP ping protocol, and the ICMP ping protocol works as follows. When you send an IP packet and the ICMP ping request, and which contains some data, the phone will respond with an ICMP ping response and copying the data from the original packet. Thereby, the data can be arbitrarily long, so it can be the full MTU size of the packet, and which is replied to the requesting party. So the basic principle of the impact attack is that missing integrity protection, combined with the fact of the reflection mechanism, allows us to build an encryption and decryption oracle. And this is because we need to encrypt something towards the network and receive something from the network. And both oracles allow an impersonation. So we will start with the encryption oracle and basically introduce the idea of the encryption oracle, and then I will show you the decryption oracle. So from the alter attack, you know that we are the attacker, an active attacker, and the man in the middle position is capable to flip some bits in the received plaintext when he knows certain parts of the message. So we have seen that we can flip one bit under the assumption we know this bit. However, knowing the whole plain text would allow us to change the whole plaintext. So the attacker, when he knows the whole plaintext, he can compute a mask for all bits in the plaintext in the packet and can change everything. In other words, if the attacker knows the whole plaintext, he can extract the key stream and reuse it to encrypt his own packet towards the network. And this is something the encryption oracle does. So we got some entities for the encryption oracle again. So we got the victim's phone here. We got the relay in the man in the middle position between the network, between the commercial network and the phone. And we got the key stream generation server. This is something under the control of the attacker, which is basically a server on the internet. And the target server. Aim of the attack is now to send a packet towards the target server with the identity of the victim. So the key stream generation server will start with this attack. It will send an IP packet containing the UDP and a known payload towards the network. So this payload is particularly important, and the attacker will basically know the plaintext the whole time of this attack, because the key stream generation server is under his control. Sending this packet towards the network would result usually in the firewall to drop the packet. So this is something we need to assume now, but there is a firewall or NAT rule already open for this incoming packet. So I did a shortcut here to do not bore you with the preparation phase, and so let's assume that this NAT port is open. The network will route this packet on the logical level to the phone, and the network will encrypt this packet for the over-air transmission, but on the radio layer this packet is sent towards our relay. The relay can now manipulate the whole content of the traffic, but only focuses on the UDP header and changes the UDP header to an ICMP ping request with a known payload here. Everything is valid encrypted and sent towards the UE. The UE will now trigger the reflection mechanism, or because it's an incoming ICMP request from an IP, and will respond to this ICMP ping request with an ICMP ping reply, copying the original payload from the request, which is generated actually at the keystream generation server. So the relay has now the chance to compute the whole keystream, because he knows the plaintext, he knows also the ICMP ping reply, and reuse this key stream to encrypt his own new payload, which he would like to send towards the target server. He also sets the destination IP to the IP of the target server IP. Everything is valid and sent towards the network encrypted, and the network has no means to detect any manipulation, and then decrypts the packet and forwards the packet towards the target server. So the target server has now received the packet, and he will respond to it. For example, if you have a TCP connection which should be built up, you got a TCP SYN packet, and the target server will respond with a TCP SYN ACK towards this packet. So we need to receive this SYN ACK packet as an attacker to build up a fully functional connection. So the idea of the decryption oracle, so this is why we need the decryption oracle. The idea of the decryption oracle is now that the response of the target server is manipulated in this way that it also reflects the packet, and the reflected packet is also again manipulated and redirected to an entity called decryption server. So how does it look like in the sequence diagram? The target server will respond, for example, with a TCP SYN ACK with an unknown plain text, a payload with an unknown payload. We would like to receive this payload because we would like to build a valid TCP connection towards the target server. The network received this, and it's actually directed on a logical level, on an IP level, towards the UE, towards the phone. But on the radio layer, this packet is sent towards a relay. The relay has again the chance to manipulate the plain text or the payload of this packet. And now there's also a second reflection mechanism, not the ICMP ping reflection. This is something we call unreachable reflection. In case of changing the IP protocol header, we can change it to an unsupported protocol, and the UE will reflect the packet with the payload of the incoming packet. So this is where the payload where the reflection mechanism is triggered, and this reflection contains the whole TCP packet original coming from the target server, and now the relay changes the destination IP towards the decryption server, and the network again receives the packet and decrypts it and forwards it or routes it towards the decryption server. We can now access the original packet from the target server and are able to access the information we need. So using the uplink and downlink, uplink encryption and downlink decryption allows us to fully impersonate a victim. So we can start with the uplink encryption oracle to build a TCP SYN packet, receive the TCP SYN ACK, and perform the uplink encryption again to send some data to the target server, and the target server will respond. So we have performed the experiments using the same setup as shown before, with a commercial network, with a commercial phone, and all these attacks do not require any user interaction. This is because we use the initial check of Android phones to be intercepted, which is Android connectivity, connectivitycheck.android.com. And we performed for the uplink impersonation, we performed 2 experiments. So just to recap the aim of the uplink impersonation. The attacker would like to access a website or a server with the identity of the victim. And we performed an experiment where we visit a website which is only accessible by the victim, and therefore I need to introduce you to server sites. Server sites are sites hosted by the providers that allow you to manage your account. They allow you to book data plans or even sometimes to show your phone number. The authentication is just based on the IP address. So this is something called header enrichment, and the provider at the gateway towards the server insert a header that says, okay, this is this customer, he has his rights to be accessed. And we performed this experiment, and we're able to access the server side without any interaction of this victim. We further uploaded a 10 kilobyte file to a server with the IP address of the victim. We will now see the demonstration of the uplink impact attack, where we access the server side with the identity of the victim. So we are again in the man-in-the-middle position between the LTE network and the phone. And here we see all the internet entities, but we focus on the man-in-the-middle relay. We see the victim here. And we start the relay. The relay started. We will disable airplane mode now. And start some management script that perform all things automatically. And now the phone is connected again, so the AKA has happened and everything is fine. And we download the website using an automatic call script. And here we go. We downloaded in total 35 packets, and the victim has still a functional LTE internet connection. So we see the basically the HTML source code, and we see that we are able to access the information how many data volume was used during the last period of, and we are able basically also to book a new data plan, which is a day flat where you can have free access for 1 day, for 24 hours. So we have seen that the uplink impersonation works in a commercial setting, and we will also see that the downlink impersonation is possible. So I didn't talk much about the downlink impersonation. However, it's quite similar to the uplink impersonation. So you got an encryption oracle and a downlink encryption oracle and a decryption oracle. The aim is the other way around. So the attacker impersonates a network and is able to send any kind of IP traffic towards your phone. He can use this to circumvent the firewall. For example, if you have an app listening on a particular port or an IoT device or something like that, and this should be protected by the provider's firewall towards any incoming traffic, right? And the aim of the downlink impersonation attack is now to circumvent this provider's firewall and send arbitrary IP messages towards your phone. So we will see this. So the aim. And we are again in the man-in-the-middle position between the LTE network and the victim. And we focus again on the man-in-the-middle relay. And here we got the app that listens for incoming traffic. This is basically Netcat, just listening for incoming traffic. We start the relay. The relay has found a cell and sends out the identifiers. We disabled the airplane mode again. And so we start some management scripts and disable the airplane mode. So the AKA is performed and the UE thinks, okay, it's connected to the network, and already the attack has happened. Here we see hello downlink impact, which is a string which is sent towards the app. So we now have seen that the uplink and downlink impersonation attack is a real attack vector in commercial networks, and it's very important to discuss the implications. So the first question I would like to answer, who is affected? And I guess if you are an ordinary person, this is something that should not or will not happen to you. The attacker needs to have specialized hardware, customized LTE stack, and conducting this attack outside our shielding box is quite difficult. However, for single targets and very high value targets, this might be an option. So we know that IMSI catchers and stingrays are out there and used by agencies for conducting attacks. And I recently came about an article or report by Amnesty International which describes an attack vector or an attack to a journalist, where he got some spyware installed on the phone. And basically I would like to read out some sentences. For the network injection, the attacker requires either physical location to the target or access deleted. And the first sentence of describes something similar to an IMSI catcher attack. So you need physical approximation to the target. And there's another sentence which is quite interesting to read. The phone's web browser is then redirected to a malicious web page or website. And this is exactly the alter attack. So you get redirected and then might get infected by spyware. So an ordinary person might not be affected by this, but it might be exploitable now or even in future by some agencies. Besides the estimation of the risk, we would need to talk about the consequences. First of all, for providers rely on mutual authentication for billing purposes. So for example, they use this server side where you can book the data plans. But also, an attacker is able to generate a lot of data in your name. And this would be billed to your bill, right? And this would result in overbilling. And this is something providers should be concerned about. I think there are some laws in some countries that allow not to overcharge you as customer. And there is also the risk of authorization. So accessing the server side, for example. Consequently, the impact attack is a risk for the business model of the providers. Second, law enforcement agencies rely on mutual authentication in case of an investigation. For example, when an attacker visits a website which is which visits a website, attacks this websites, or upload illegal content to this web page, and the police investigates in this case and asks the provider for the identity of a particular IP address, the wrong victim gets blamed, and this can be this is bad for the police investigation. And so it's a kind of serious threat for current and future investigations that are solely based on IP addresses in mobile networks. Last but not least, the consequences for users. So what are the consequences for users? Obviously, this is a privacy threat. For example, when the server side displays your phone number, this phone number can be directly linked to your IMSI. And this can be used for further tracking attacks, right? And this is something you don't want. But also for industrial users, like having a factory connected via LTE or IoT devices via LTE connected to your control unit, would allow an attacker to circumvent the provider's firewall and thereby directly accessing the port of the IoT device. For example, bad configured IoT devices that have open Ethernet ports would be open to such an attack. So the question is, how can we mitigate the problem? And the only valid answer is perform mandatory integrity protection on the user plane. And there are two questions. First of all, is LTE capable of performing this? And what is about 5G? So LTE is already around for 10 years. Things are deployed, and I guess there will be no mandatory integrity protection on the user plane for all devices, because backporting would be very expensive. However, 5G, and the situation in 5G is different. So in 5G, there is a standalone mode, which will be deployed maybe in 2022. And this standalone mode, in this standalone mode, integrity protection of the user plane is optional, but it's mandatory support in full rate for all devices. And this is something which is only 1 month old. So basically, mandatory integrity protection on full rate level is only supported since at the beginning of July, but it's still optional to use in 5G. So we will monitor the providers if they will enable it. And this is how I would like to end my talk. So thank you very much for listening to my talk. Stay healthy and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Hi everyone, and so thank you for listening to my talk, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I don't know if I have much time for answering Q&A. I guess most questions should be set by now, at least in the chat. So if you feel free to contact me if you have further questions. And so, thank you for listening again. Hope you enjoyed it.